Let's just take a deep breath. Now we're all family here, okay?
Based on award-winning comic book series, The Umbrella Academy had a following long before Netflix brought them to life. The comic books were created by Gerard Way, the frontman of My Chemical Romance. This added another layer of interest. Then when Netflix announced that they would be turning the comics into a series, it instantly created a buzz. When the show was first released, it almost instantly became an overnight success. It quickly became one of the most watched shows on the streaming service. It was interesting and addictive. It also has some of the best special effects of any television series I've ever seen. So let's take a look at The Umbrella Academy without CGI, what it really looks like. Just a warning, there are going to be spoilers in this video. Please remember to subscribe to our channel and to turn on the notifications, then you will be kept up to date on all the videos we post. And if you enjoyed this video, please remember to hit that like button. First, for those who haven't watched the show, what is it all about? I'm going to try my best here. This show is completely bonkers and incredibly fun, but it has a lot going on. So to explain exactly what it is all about is not so easy. The story goes that 43 women all around the world had babies at the exact same moment. While this is cool, it isn't all that strange, until you hear that none of these women started out the day being pregnant. They had no signs that they were going to have a baby until they went into labor. The eccentric billionaire, Reginald Hargreaves, adopts 7 of these kids because they have superhero powers. He turns them into a superhero team called the Umbrella Academy. He then calls them by numbers rather than giving them names. Luckily, they have a robot mother who decides to name them. The show kicks off with all the adopted siblings being estranged and living apart, while 5 has been missing for years. They all come together for Reginald's funeral, and 5 returns from the future where he was stuck to warn his family that the end of the world is close and that it is up to them to stop it. And this is all the parts that are semi-normal. One of the first really cool parts, where we see them using special effects, is when Luther is on the moon. He floats around lunar landscapes, watching the sun rise off the earth, and generally just living his life while living on the moon. It was really awesome scene, but when you consider that pretty much everything in that scene is fake, it is even more incredible. The only thing that was actually there was Luther Hargreaves, played by Tom Hopper. The rest was all done with a room full of green screens. Wires were used to create the feeling that Luther was floating around, weightless, on the moon. Then everything else had to be added after filming. So it just looks like a normal person being pulled around on wires in a room full of green backgrounds. It's pretty amazing when you think about it. Pogo would not exist without the use of CGI and special effects. Pogo is a chimpanzee that worked as an assistant to Reginald and becomes like a father figure to the Hargreaves kids. While he isn't human, he did become one of the most loved and talked about characters in the show. And without special effects, he would just be another normal human. Or in fact, 2 normal human beings. Chimps have a lot of facial expressions, and the team from the Umbrella Academy really wanted to give as much emotion to this character as they could. So they asked Weta Digital to work on his character. They were the company that worked on Middle-earth and Lord of the Rings trilogy. They really know what they're doing. It shows just what lengths this show is willing to go to get the effects that they want to have. There were 220 artists working on different aspects of Pogo, really pulling out all the stops to make him as realistic as possible. During filming, the actor Ken Hall was interacting with the cast and playing Pogo to leave room for him to fit into the scenes. Then after filming was finished, Adam Godley came in and gave Pogo all his facial expressions and also his voice. It sounds that it was a long and drawn out process to create Pogo, and I think it really paid off. This was an awesome character, and everything would be completely different if he just looked like a normal person. The Commission's office. With just a little bit of green screen magic, this show has proven that they can create a lot of magic. We get to see inside the Commissioner's inner workings and the offices that they work out of. There are loads of people working for them, and we get a feeling of just how far-reaching and sprawling this agency is. But when you see the unedited clip, it is much less impressive. There are only a few people sitting at tables in front of a green screen. The Commission would have been much less intimidating if this was the scene that we saw. You know, besides all the super murdery assassins they keep sending after 5. While we're on the subject of 5, anytime he makes a jump through space and time would look very different if there was no CGI or special effects used on the show. It would just be him just kind of standing there without anything interesting happening or him going anywhere. They would need to use the old technique of fading to black, then just having appear in the time and place that he is visiting next. Much less fun or cool than the way we get to see him moving now. What about some of the war scenes? There is one scene that is pretty incredible. It has so much going on that if you blink for a moment, you'll miss a piece of the action. There are planes flying, things are exploding, tanks shooting, and and 7 Hargreaves kids using their powers and blowing things up. It is a pretty epic scene for a series, and one that took a lot of special effects to create. Without the use of CGI and green screen technology, it would have just been a bunch of people standing in a room looking at each other, some with their hands in the air for no particular reason, so not all that entertaining when you think about it. Don't get me wrong, the acting on the show is really good, and the actors are putting everything into creating these characters, so I don't mean that the show would be bad if it just had that acting to fall back on. It just wouldn't be the same show at all. It is a fantasy universe, and we need all the special effects and the unusual people to create this world. This story would never have come alive without this show, so I'm very glad that they have created this at a time where computer-generated imagery and special effects are better than they've ever been. And on a streaming service like Netflix, who doesn't mind giving series the budget to create incredible worlds? So let's get back to some of the things that would have changed without special effects. There's a pretty impressive mushroom explosion scene, and again, this wouldn't have been possible without the help of special effects. The unedited scene just has all the actors who played the Umbrella Academy standing staring at a green screen. Not all that inspiring or scary on its own, but when you watch the finished scene, it changes entirely. You see the explosion and know how devastating it must be. You feel for the Hargreaves siblings because they fought so hard to stop it, but there they were watching it happen. It is an incredible moment in the series. What about the scenes where Vanya releases her force? At the start of the series, we think that Vanya is the only one of the adopted siblings that doesn't have any powers, but soon we find out that her powers are so strong that her adoptive father decided to hide these from her, since he was worried about the safety of the world if she could not control them. So he suppressed her powers with drugs. Then he dies, and then she starts to realize that she can use sound to unleash an incredible force. When she does use this power at last, it is incredible to see. There's a lot of power behind it, and because of special effects, we don't need to use our imaginations to see it happening. We get to experience it with the characters, and every time she uses it, it is awesome. Then there's a moment with loads of agents in a field. This scene is incredible on a lot of levels. When the scene was filmed there had been a snowstorm in the field that production wanted to use, so they had to make sure that all the snow in the field disappeared. In the final scene that appears in the show, the field is packed with agents as far as the eye can see. In reality, the filming was done with only a few people on the field, and the rest was added during post-production. Basically, anytime any of the siblings unleash their powers. There are too many incredibly cool moments to mention where CGI is used in making the Umbrella Academy, and there are too many siblings to mention each one separately. But each time one of the Hargreaves uses their powers, these powers are added in post-production. And if there is any moment in the show that seems insane or larger than life, then it is very likely that special effects were used to create this magical and crazy universe. It is a show that is unapologetic about its use of CGI, and that creates incredible moments by using the tools that they have at their disposal. When is the next season coming? Excited to see what they come up next? I am too, but we will have to wait. The new season has only just started filming, and as you can imagine, it takes a long time to put everything together. For now, we will just have to admire the previous season. Thanks for watching!